Niki, with that homeschool life. Oh my goodness. I hit go live and it said download your encoder. I was like, oh, what? I didn't see that last time when I did a soft go live last night. So anyway, thank you for being here. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes to let more of you guys come into the chat. Okay, so I want a lot of light in here, but they're doing construction next door. So if it gets too loud, I'm going to leave my door open, but if it gets too loud, just let me know in the chat and I'll close the door. And let me see how it looks with the door closed. That's kind of dark. All right, just let me know if the noise is too loud. Okay, so I have a new location for this live. I just started making my own she cave last night, and that's a whole nother video that I'm going to have up for you guys. But today's live, the topic is how to know when to pull your child from public school or private school. So I'm going to wait for a couple of people to come in, and let me send out another notification. I don't know if the first one went through. Guys, this is all so new for me. Okay, I think this went through. Not sure, but no matter. Okay, so why I decided to do this topic was because on one of my videos, I think it was how to create a homeschool space, a mom, a homeschooler, and I won't say her name because I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but she was saying that her son, I believe it was her son, is in kindergarten, and he was having issues with the teacher. Basically, he was asking a lot of questions, and the teacher felt that the boy was just interrupting her and, just not letting her get her teaching done or something to that effect. And, her son obviously sounds like a very curious child. And you know how kids are at that age. They just they're sponges. They want to absorb information, everything. And they're asking a lot of questions, which is great. I guess not in that class with that teacher for that child. So the mom was really concerned. And I wrote to her that it's April, and school was just a couple months away from being over, and that for the immediate in the now time, just to set up a countdown to summer with her child. So she didn't say how her child was feeling. Like if the child was like, well, she's always telling me to be quiet, or she doesn't answer my questions. She didn't say if the child was demoralized or if the child was just making observations and like, oh, well, the teacher always says this or whatever. She didn't mention that. So I'm assuming since she was like wanting to pull her child out, maybe her child wasn't, feeling all of that. So in that case, I was like, make a countdown, but make it fun. I know when I was in college, my roommate and we had a countdown until finals. And we had, those paper chains, the little chains you make in loops and you staple or tape it together. And you have that long chain of construction paper. And each day we would take a machete and just hack off, or scissors, or hack off each chain to free them from school. Until graduation. So something like that for her son. So her son could see that, oh, I know I have to go into this situation every day, but it's each day is getting less. It's getting less. And then you can build in a lot of other skills with that, like a lot of math skills and life skills like patience and persevering, things like that. So that was the motivation behind this share. How to know when it's time to yank your kid out of school. And for my veteran homeschoolers on the chat, or if you're watching, please chime in and give your advice, because there will be a lot of parents who will need that. I find that the two major times when I get that question about when to pull my child is in December, the end of the first semester, and it's your first time in school, maybe your child's in kindergarten, or it's a new school, or just a situation where you feel this semester of school did not work to our interest, our best interest. And then toward the end of the school year is when parents really start questioning their options instead of public school, which she is doing. And this is great because this is the perfect time to start gathering your information and your resources to prepare yourself for whatever decision you make. Now, to the topic at hand, and let me see. I'm at 5 minutes. Okay, so with the topic at hand, how to know when to pull your child from school. Well, let me give you my story. Well, my story, well, you know what, let me just give you like my top 10 reasons why I find that people pull their kids from school. Okay, so my reason was it wasn't academically challenging, and we are in a very affluent school district, which don't be looked, you guys who are in those, you know, nice, wealthy zip codes, don't think just because you bought yourself into this great zip code that you bought yourself into a great education with this great school. It doesn't always happen that way. So be mindful of that. So my son was too advanced and they didn't have any accommodations to really facilitate his learning. So that was why we pulled. But for a lot of people, it's the school is not advanced. Maybe it's a low performing school and the child is bored and they're just not going to get out. They're not going to really get that much out of the school or the teacher. The teacher's just going to be exasperated, just trying to do behavior management in the classroom, and the resources are not going to be there. So it's going to be hard to have your child excel. So one reason is your child is going to a low performing school or even a high performing school, but they can't really accommodate your child. They're high performing, but unless it's a magnet school, a very specialized school, you still kind of get lost in the shuffle. Okay. Another reason is, of course, bullying, whether it's cyberbullying or physical bullying. I found that to be really the number one reason why a lot of parents pull their children, probably number two. And especially when they're in 5th or 6th grade, when kids have, you know, their cell phones and they're on social media, that's when the bullying takes place. And sometimes it's not even in your face bullying. It's that subtle passive bullying. For example, a girl might invite on Instagram her friends to like a nail spa or over to her house for something, but deliberately not invite your child. Or a boy could have, hey, let's go play soccer after school at my house. They don't invite your child, and then they have soccer, have whatever they do, and then they take pictures of it and they put it on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And so your child is seeing that not only were they invited, but oh my God, they had a really great time. So there's that passive aggressive bullying that sometimes is just as demoralizing, if not more than that physical in your face bullying. So that is an issue. And then that's just from the students. You have teachers who are bullies, and that could be very obvious where, you know, they're not calling on you or in class, or they're picking on you, they're making comments about you. Or it could be, in my case, when I was in middle school, it was that benign neglect. Like, I was a very bright student. I was an honor student all throughout middle school or advanced. And then when I got to high school, all of my classes were regular classes. And my counselor, when you're in 9th grade, you meet with your counselor. And my counselor was like, why are you in these classes? You're at the top of your class in middle school. Why are you in these classes? And I was like, I don't know. And then she was like, she didn't tell me, but my sophomore year, she let the cat out the bag and was like, well, she got me in all in honors classes. I was put in all honors classes, but my English teacher would make little remarks about, did you really write this? Or how did you know? What does this word mean? Just little things just to make me feel like I wasn't smart enough to be in her class. And so anyway, the counselor was like, oh, this teacher is known to dumb down on transcripts or report cards or on recommendations for advanced classes, Black kids. And that's what she did. So anyway, So that's a form of bullying because she was really trying to deny me an education. And so you have to look out for that. You could have a teacher who's very nice, she smiles, she's friendly, but she doesn't recommend your child for something that you know your child is capable of doing, or she doesn't, or he doesn't kind of, if they see your child has an aptitude, they don't try to encourage that. So you have to watch out for that as well, which means you have to be a very proactive parent and a presence in your child's school, which leads me to the next one, which are learning issues. Now, learning issues, you definitely have to be active in your child's school, or you'll be running for the hills leaving public school. Having a child with learning issues or disabilities, in a way, it can work for your child because they'll have a lot of accommodations and a lot of law to protect them and their rights. But the law and the rights are only as good as the enforcement, right? So that means as a parent, you have to really be actively engaged in advocating for your child. And that's regardless whether your child has issues, gifted, regular, whatever. So you have to, so for learning issues, if your child is not in a special education setting and they're in a general education setting, your teacher who might have 30 plus second graders might not have the energy to even try to accommodate your child. Your teacher, if your child has an IEP, your teacher might not know that. Because I don't know, I've taught, but not in a public school, but I have so many public school teacher friends. Teachers don't even know if a child has an IEP in their class. And in that IEP, you have all the accommodations that need to be met so that child can reach their potential. And a lot of times teachers just don't know. It's not that they don't care, they don't know. And in the law, they're not allowed to ask, the parent, does your child have an IEP? They can't ask that. So you have to, volunteer that information, or the teacher has to, when they're doing their class assignments in the summer or in spring, they need to know, okay, how many kids am I going to have that have an IEP or 501, 504 or something like that. And then it's a lot on the teacher's end trying to find the information to be able to help your child if they have learning issues, whether it's ADHD, autism, cerebral palsy, sensory issues, you name it. Any kind of learning issue, a lot of times the teacher is in the dark. So you're probably exasperated because you're trying to work with a teacher who might not know anything, or if she does know, she might not have the time or the energy to make it happen in class because she has too many kids. So learning issues. How many did I say, guys? So that's 3: low performing, high performing schools, bullying, learning issues. Number 4, faith. I'm from Texas, so this is big. But a lot of families will take their kids out because of their faith. Maybe they don't like how science is taught in the school, or they don't like the social issues that are now being taught in school, especially with the LGBTQ communities. So they might have issues with that, and they don't want to deal with that. So that's a very big issue for a lot of homeschoolers. I haven't met that many who pull their kids out because of their faith. Sometimes what they'll do is, if something's coming up, they're very proactive. I found those parents are quite proactive, but they know they'll for help. They'll get the book that the school is using and say, okay, for this unit, when they're going over this, we're not going to send our kid. So, but some people say, hey, I don't even want to deal with that. My kid's not going to public school. So that's another issue, and that's faith. And then also faith goes a little deeper because families also worry about how kids are socialized in public school, and they think that's going to affect their children. So although anything can happen that's, in public school, outside of public school, but families who will want to kind of shield their children from, especially going into middle school, families will want to shield their kids from, just the things that go on, at that age level, because it starts getting really dicey. Okay. Let's see. Environment. People run to the hills just the thought of their kid being in a low performing school. Everyone, especially out here in LA, it's all about your zip code zone to your school, a good school. And they think, oh, okay, well, I'm not in this school district or that, so I'm fine. And quite the opposite can happen. Actually, I kind of wouldn't mind if my child was in a low performing school, because I know I would after school my child and make sure they're at least 1 or 2 grade levels ahead. I kind of want them just to be around, just to kind of toughen up. I'm the daughter of a Marine, so I think kids are a little too coddled. Well, they're a lot to me. They're coddled a lot. So, but that's just me. But in these very upscale school districts, let me tell you, at one of our high schools years back, because the kids are so smart, they have access to all kinds of things and money and time. You put youth, time, money, creativity all together, and sometimes that could be glorious, and other times it's Chernobyl. And there were a group of girls that got together and figured out that, hey, we like to drink, but we're tired of just drinking in our parents' home when they're out on a business trip. Let's soak our, okay, if you have any kids listening, cover their ears. Let's soak our feminine product, which is that product, like that, not the pad, but the other one. Let's soak that in vodka and insert it, and we can get drunk and we'll pass the breathalyzer. Because if a student is intoxicated at school, they'll give them like a breathalyzer, or have them do, they'll like check their eyes, all the physical signs that they're allowed to do, smell the breath, check the eyes or whatever. But with the TAMPON soaked vodka, soaked in vodka, it goes directly to your bloodstream and you're just sailing through. Nobody knows. So that was big, but who would think of that? And someone who knew chemistry and all kinds of stuff, they figured things out. So, syringes that, you insert into gummy bears, and you can put, all kinds of a liquid drug in there in the syringe and then, you give your friend some gummy bears and, oh, cool, some gummy bears. Yeah, I need these. I'm going to science. It's boring. I need a pick me up. And it's a real pick me up. So those well-off schools are landmines as well. You got good kids there, but you got kids, when they're up to things, they are really up to things. So low performing schools, they have their obvious issues, but high performing schools, they also have their issues. And in addition to the things they can get into, it's the social anxiety and the mental health issues that those students have. They're already stressed out because the pressure on them to get into a great school, an Ivy League school, is super high. So I know I'm long-winded on that, but your environment, basically. So you could be in a low performing school, a high performing school, but it really matters the environment within that school, how, whether you want to keep your kids at that school. Okay, let's see. Your child is too advanced or too slow. That was our reason. When we pulled our son, let me take a swig of water, guys, in my Queen of Everything mug. Oh my goodness, I'm at almost 20 minutes just yapping. So we pulled our son in December, the end of the first semester in second grade, because, and I liked the teacher. I had actually liked all of the teachers we had, kindergarten, first grade, and then second grade. But, my son was kind of, acting up in class. And I would ask, and a teacher would come and talk to me. And first of all, if you're in a public or private school setting, you need to make an ally with the teacher if she's in that frame of mind to be an ally. Some teachers are like, but you need to make an ally with the teacher. So when you have future conversations with her, you can get her non-teacher response, her PC correct responses. She can tell you what's really going on. And she was saying that, my son was just, he would finish his work and then he would go walk around talking to other students, and, he was just bored. So she said that, and at least she tried. She said she would give him some third grade stuff because she was a former third and fourth grade teacher. And that would probably slow him down because it would take him a little bit longer to get the work done. Well, she did that. A week later, she was like, he's blowing through the work. I'm going to give him some fourth grade work. And then also I'll give you some work to take home with him. And that way, he's not, he can get some reinforcement at home. And then when he's in class, while I'm teaching the other kids, because she knew I had taught before, while he's in class, he can work on the fourth grade stuff. And since you have been working with him at home, he won't have to come and ask me questions because I'll be working with the second graders. So it's like that kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, fourth week. So we have been doing this for about a month. And then she's like, one day they were coming out the classroom and she was like, Nick, she was like, I'm like, you trying to say my child is crazy? And she was like, I'm sorry, guys, there are like some gnats in here. There's, he was just out of control today. I gave him some work to do, and we had some students come in from my old class. They were fourth graders, and he was working really well with them, and he was doing their work, and they were giving him problems to do, and he was just doing them, off his head, just spitting it out. And so the kids were like, oh, so my son was like, oh, well, can I just go to class with them? And the kids were like, yeah, he's cool. So she was like, no, we can't do that. So my son was upset because he didn't want to stay in the second grade class. So afterward, I talked to her after class, the next day, and she said, okay, he's just, after what happened with the fourth graders, he really doesn't want to be in the classroom for math especially. So what we can do is when we have math, because the third and fourth graders all have math at the same time, I can send them to the fourth grade class to do math, and then he can come back after that. So I'm like, okay, the logistics of that, someone escorting him to class, he's being around fourth graders. My child is really kind of like socially immature. So he doesn't need to be around fourth graders. So that wasn't really an option. And the class size was fairly small, like 21 students, but that was all she had, as a way to accommodate him. Just throw him in an upper class, or just give him some different work in class where he was sitting by himself. And there was another student who was pretty advanced, and that student, actually the mom pulled their student and put them in private school. So that didn't work. So a month and it's some change going back and forth. Then my son was like, well, math is boring. I hate it. Teacher doesn't really like me now. And the teacher loved him, but he just felt singled out. So I'm like, you know what? When he starts saying, I hate math, and I knew I struggled in math growing up, like, oh my God, please no, don't be like your mother. It was a wrap. So, but I left on good terms. I wrote the teacher, a great teacher appreciation letter, because she did try. She was just limited in her ways. And I could not have helped her anymore because I was already turned off with the public school ideal already. I was actually going to homeschool my oldest when he was in kindergarten. I had gotten into a charter school program, went there for about a month, and then he was like, oh, I miss my kindergarten teacher. So we went back to our school, and I said, oh, I'll just reapply to this charter and get in, and we never did. So we were going to homeschool in kinder, but we didn't. So I was already kind of like put off with public school. So I'm like, nah, we're good. And so we were gone. So all that to say, because y'all can see I'm long-winded, your child being too advanced, and they don't have proper accommodations where your child as a whole is taken care of, not just because they're good in math or writing or reading or whatever. But what about the social aspect? You don't really want to throw young kids with too old. That can work. I personally like mixed age groups, but in a school setting like that, where it's so compartmentalized, it's not like they're going to lunch and recess and they're spending time together. He's just in there for one class for 45 minutes and then he's gone. So socially, it doesn't really work well for the morale of that student. Now, if your child is too slow, your school might be low performing or they might be high performing, but your child is not getting it. They need more time. Say they're doing fractions in fourth grade and they probably need another 2 or 3 weeks to really grasp that concept. That school is not waiting on your child. And sure, you can do tutoring, after school stuff, but in the classroom, your child is sitting in that classroom and they've moved on to percent or whatever. And they're already feeling like they're sinking, like this is already over my head or I don't get it. So anything that's taught afterward is just foreign to them. It's like, if you've ever learned a foreign language and went to a country to speak it, you understand what I'm talking about. It is literally, if you don't grasp a math concept, everything else is a foreign language to you. And it can be pretty demoralizing sitting there class after class, just feeling lost, okay? So your child is, not really getting it. Maybe they're having issues with their reading. They just can't quite get it, or their writing, at the elementary age, you got to nip that in the bud because you don't want all those lingering deficits to carry over into middle school and into high school. So a lot of parents feel they're not going to get a customized education for their child, so they're just going to pull them out of public school, which goes to my next reason is you want something custom for your child. Hopefully, your child's strengths and weaknesses, and you want something that caters to that. Your child might be a brilliant writer, and you want that child to be in classes that facilitate that encourage that. You want that environment to be rich with what your child is interested in. And that's not feasible for every subject, but you may want your child to, at least for something they're passionate about or very good at, you want them to be surrounded by that and not have a time frame to get it done. So if your child loves to write, and during writing at school, say it's 30 minutes, and at 29 minutes, 30 seconds, your child is really getting into it, and she's almost Hemingway her essay, and then the teacher's like, okay, well, it's time for a break, recess, and then we'll pick up with social studies. And then your child's like, oh my God, so you want something custom where your child has the luxury of just reveling in the work that they're doing. And that's what we want. We want our children who are very curious, who are passionate. If they're into something, we don't want to put time limits on it. We want them to just flourish and let that go. If you want to do math competition problems for an hour, knock yourself out. If you want to, hi, Sawyer in the middle. Yes, custom is key. I'm reading Sawyer's. We homeschool 3 children. All of them learn differently. And that's another thing. Different learning styles. Some children are very kinesthetic. They have to touch and feel and smell and shake. They have to do that. And another child is very auditory and can sit still and just listen to the teacher or just listen, and they got it. And in a public school setting, it is so hard for that teacher. She might want to try her best to get that done. She might have different stations that can cater to that, but that's not going to be for every subject that's taught in class. And it's not really going to be to a standard that your child can really take advantage of it. And what I mean by that is, it might be 10 minutes of cutting, pasting, you get a little hand stuff in there, little hands-on stuff. Maybe there's a station where you're listening to some audio stuff, and that's for a couple of minutes. But it's still little slots of segments, and you have other students around, and you're just being herded from place to place. And the child still, once they get into it, it's time to move on. So it gets to be really short and choppy, and it doesn't become custom to, different modalities of learning. So yeah, definitely custom is key. Let's see. So this might seem really minor, but this is really huge. Getting outside. At our school, our public school, they would have 2 recess periods. The first one, just get the willies out for 15 minutes. And then the second one would be attached to lunch. And that would be 30 minutes, 15 minutes for lunch, wolf it down, and then 15 minutes of playing. And that was it. In the kinder and first grade, they had like a little 10-minute extra mini recess time. And, you know, it was basically by the time you lined everyone up, went outside, they probably had 6 minutes of playtime, and then you have to line everybody up and go back inside. So you didn't really get outside a lot. And being outside, running, using those gross motor skills, yes, we love learning outside. Yes, Sawyer. Now, if you're in New Jersey and it's November, you might not want to get outside, but eventually spring does come for you guys up in the Northeast. But here in California, we can go outside year round. And there are so many kids that have that prison parlor, or they lack vitamin D because they're not outside getting the sun, working those gross motor skills and breathing in the air and climbing trees. All the things we take for granted are now things we have to pay for in the form of therapies or resorts or just basic things that are free because they're so rare now. People have capitalized on it and then they charge for it. So the good schools and the specialized schools, oh my gosh, their writing classes will always be outside, or their reading classes will always be outside. What we take for granted will be taken from us and then sold back to us at a high price. So getting outside, that was my biggest problem. The kids were just rarely outside. And by the time they were into a soccer match or they were doing, a competition for who can do how many cartwheels, it was time to go inside. So getting outside. Let's see, I had one more. Okay, this is for Black folks. Now, look, we were at a charter school and they had a project on the history of rap. So my son brings home all the papers and stuff that they got to start off the history of rap. And when I looked at the packet, it looked like, hey, love, I'm doing my live. Do you want to sit in?
Ooh, new floor.
I know. It looked like the guy from, not Full House, but some little, like Zach from Saved by the Bell. It was like him as a DJ, and he had like all his little like prep boy stuff on, and it says the history of rap and why we love it. And they only had one picture of this white guy, and he looked like he just come back from surfing and threw on his little Ralph Lauren polo. And I was like, rap? This is the history of rap? Not Cool G or Cool Mo D or Cool Herc or, Public Enemy, LL Cool J. Pick somebody. So I was like, really? So some things are obvious, like in Texas with them taking slavery out and saying it's indentured, we were indentured servants. And other times it's very blatant things. Just everything that's bad in the book has a picture of a Black kid. Oh, the kid is sad, the kid is naughty, taking the cookie, and it's always a Black kid. So those subliminal messages of trying to force this inferiority complex on Black children is definitely present. And a lot of Black families have pulled their kids from school because they feel that their psyche is going to be damaged because they're going to be made to feel like they are inferior and that everything bad is done by them and everything good is done by white people. And that's just the way it is. that's how it's presented in a lot of the schools in the curriculum. So that's why we have a large number of Black homeschoolers, because you have to be mindful of what is being put inside your child's head, okay? I call it the sensory diet. You have to watch, you have to be careful and mindful of what your children watch, eat, see, hear, and do, because it affects them. So, it's not just about, the snacks they're eating, it's what they're listening to, what they're reading, what they're seeing in their environment, in their classroom, all of that stuff. And then my last one is Common Core. Let me tell y'all something. I have a math tutor. This is so apropos right now. Wait, hold on. This is Sawyer. Love to learn this. We have Black foster children that we may adopt. Oh, that's wonderful, Sawyer. We have, how many? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by, Sawyer. Yes. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for stopping by. And I want to hear more about your possible foster children. Okay. So thank you, Sawyer, for stopping by. So Common Core. I know the reasoning behind Common Core was to kind of compete with the schools, the Scandinavian schools, and the Korean and Chinese and Japanese schools who were kicking our butts in like the TIMS, like the International Math and Society or Math Competition, whatever you call it. But it's like a yearly testing to see where the countries rank, and the US is always toward the bottom. And one of the ways that Common Core was presented was, well, we can take some of what these countries are doing and apply it, in our own way. But so the intent, I think, was good. Like Singapore math. I know Singapore math back in the 80s when Singapore was beating everybody's butt in math and test scores. People wanted to model their math after Singapore math, and which is what we use. It's also known as primary mathematics. So I understand taking good things from different places and incorporating it and customizing it for you in your country, but we just went overboard with it. So we just took a la carte from everywhere and we just crammed everything in like in a suitcase, and we're like pushing the top down on the suitcase and everything's sticking out, and we're still trying to make everything fit, and it's not fitting. So anyway, my son had some math homework, brought it home, and I was looking at it, and it was straight Common Core stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like my son, he's like, he does math Olympiad, noetics, he places very well. He gets it. He's like an algebra 1. He's in 6th grade. But going into algebra 1. But he was like, Mom, this question is so weird. He could not figure it out. And he does problems where one problem takes like 30, 40 minutes, like 2 pages of work. And it was a very simple problem on fractions. And so I was looking at him, I'm like, what the heck are they asking? So I go Google it. And that exact same question on his worksheet was like 2 pages of Google results. Apparently, that's a very popular question that parents have, this problem, and they want to know the answer to it. And it was very simple. And the only thing the question was asking was basically finding the least common multiple. And I'm like, 5, 6 sentences with so much esoteric meanings within it, and you just want to know the LCM. So yeah, that's one reason why I pulled, because it took the joy out of doing math. So those are reasons I've seen and heard from other parents why they take their children out of public school. Now, when to pull your child out of homeschool, I'll give you just some quick tips, because, oh my gosh, almost 40 minutes. Dang, y'all, I talk a lot. 2 foster kids. Okay, so I'm looking at Sawyer. So why? Okay, so some tips to know when it's time to pull your child. When your child is coming home upset, demoralized, crying, just confused, consistently coming home. It's okay every now and then if they've met a challenge in class and something they don't get, and you can help them persevere through that. But when they are consistently coming home, Mom, I don't get it. I'm so dumb. I can't get this. When they start that negative talk, it's a running dialogue. That's a sign it's time to pull your child from public school. When the bullying stuff is obvious, but when to pull is before it gets too late. When you start seeing your child's demeanor, this is when you have to watch your child very carefully. When you start seeing your child's demeanor change in any way, shape, or form, you need to pull them out. Whether it's their eating habits, it's their daily habits, it's maybe they stop talking. Anything out the ordinary with your child, and bullying is going on, that's a time to pull your child. Counselors and talks and all that, no, that just prolongs the situation. Chances are the people who bully, the kids who bully, are not going to leave the school. No action is going to happen to them. It's going to continue. So that's a sign to pull your child. When you keep looking at the homework and thinking, oh my God, this could be so much more, or this is not going to challenge you, or it's like, what is this? Why are they asking this stupid stuff? When you're consistently looking at the homework and thinking, really, is this it? It's probably time to pull your child from public school. When you are getting an assignment that has a white wrapper as the history is the epitome of rap, is probably time to pull your child. When your child has learning issues and you see them just getting further and further behind, it's time to pull your child from public school. And parents, we have to be honest with ourselves and not gloss or ignore signs in your face. You should know your child by now. They're at least in kindergarten. You've been around your child for at least 5 years. You should know your child, their temperament, their personality, all of that. So anything that you see changing, that's a red flag for you. Now, once you see these red flags, you can try to do a stopgap and try to, figure things out and try to work with the school. But you might be limited there, quite honestly. You can try to make it work to get to the end of the school year, but you're probably going to need to pull your child out. And it's not permanent. Maybe you need to try homeschool out for a semester just to see how your child learns and maybe to help build them back up as a human. And then maybe switch schools, or maybe a new teacher, a new grade. Maybe things might be different. But don't sleep on it. Don't just think, oh, well, they just need to man up or get over it or deal, or, oh, well, it's just a phase. Sometimes it's not. So really if you're drawn to this topic, obviously something is pulling at your heart or making you think. So go with that mom or dad instinct and start watching your child and start gathering your resources, okay? So in case you do need to homeschool, you're ready to go and popping come fall, okay? Because homeschooling it's like a hokey pokey dance with homeschoolers. One homeschooler, they'll have one kid in and the other out and another in, and the mom's crazy and all about. At one point I had my oldest who was homeschooled, my middle child was in kindergarten public school, and then my youngest was in preschool. So it's not an all or nothing situation. It's an ebb and flow. But anyway, so okay, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm 43 minutes in and I only intended to talk for like 15 or 20 minutes. So anyway, I hope you found some value in this. Just know, guys, mom's on her live. I'm gonna close this door real quick. Okay, so thank you for hanging out with me. This is my first ever live. Thank you, Sawyer, for stopping by. I so appreciate that. And I'm going to do more of these shares. I'll probably make them really short, but I just wanted to really make a video response to the mom who left that comment on my how to create a homeschool space page, because she, you know, as homeschoolers, we know the new moms when they're like, oh my God, this is not working out with public school. What are my options? That deer in the headlights. We know that feeling. Well, maybe not the moms who always homeschool and never did public school, but we know that feeling of just we want something different. We need something different. We just don't know what that is. So with all that said, thank you guys so much. If there are any other topics you would like to me to do a live on, leave it in the comment section below. I'm going to get out of here because my kids are about to descend upon me like a swarm of locusts. So anyway, this is Nikki with That Homeschool Life. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next share. Bye-bye. Now, how do I turn this off?
You can keep on going.
Where are you guys moving your stuff in here? This is mommy's she cave.
Well, we're not moving stuff in here. We're just putting it so you can put your stuff on it.
Oh, you're trying to help me out? Oh my God, thank you. Okay.
We're putting this. We're putting.
Wow,
We're putting
45
this
minutes
table.
in.
Oh, I'm still on.
You're putting
Okay.
this table. We're putting this table here so you can put your computer on here.
Oh, that's sweet of you, baby. All right, I got to figure out how to end this.
So you don't
Oh,
have.
end string.
So you don't have to put it on the book. That you don't have to put it